Don't sell your house with tenants in it until you watch this video first. Getting yourself in legal issues is not fun, and in Ontario, you have to follow the landlord and tenant board guidelines so that you can sell your house successfully without any stress, and make sure you also get top dollar while doing so. My name is Daniel Hale. I'm a real estate agent that works with a ton of real estate investors, which means that I have sold a ton of tenanted properties. So stick around till the end, and I'm gonna share with you the things that you should not do when selling a tenanted property in Ontario ever. Starting with number one, don't just put a for sale sign up on the front lawn and not let your tenant know what is going on. This is gonna set things off on a terrible foot, and they're likely gonna be upset at you for not telling them and giving them a heads up. No matter how angry you are at this tenant, give them proper notice. Now, I understand in Ontario, you have the right to sell your house. You can put it up whenever you want, but at least give them 1 to 2 weeks notice so that they know you're coming, they know you're putting it up for sale, and they can start preparing for what's next for their life, because they also have to relocate. Number two, when you put the house up for sale, do not allow the tenant to choose the showing schedule unless they are working with you and cooperating on the sale. If they're not cooperating with you, or maybe they're not paying rent, they have a lot of arrears or issues that they have been causing, you are not going to give them a showing schedule. It's going to be 24 hours notice, and the landlord and tenant board laws are that the showings can be anytime between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can't do any showings earlier than 8 a.m. and you can't do any showings later than 8 p.m. All you must do is 24 hours notice. If you give that tenant a showing schedule where they're already not cooperating with you, you are basically throwing the ball in their court and letting them be in control, which makes things a lot more difficult for you. If they are not cooperating, they're not working with you, it's probably more advantageous to just give 24 hours notice, because they're not gonna want showings all the time anyways. Now, if the tenant is cooperating, I find it advantageous to then work out a showing schedule. Let me explain. Tenants in Ontario have the right to tell you you are not allowed to take any photos of the interior of the home. You must get their consent to do so, which helps with the sale of the house. Of course, people want to see pictures of the interior of the house. They also want to see that the house is clean and it looks good. So if the tenant asks you for a showing schedule, you can then counter that by saying, will you allow me to do photos, and will you be willing to clean up the house while I prepare it for sale so I can get the proper marketing that I need. I've done this many of times, and it's worked a lot of times. I've had tenants clean up the property, allow me to do photos, and get it presentable for buyers to come into the house to see. So if they are cooperating, of course, you should work together, because it's more advantageous for both of you to work together. But if they're not, no schedule. Number three, the biggest one I see all the time, it drives me crazy. Do not ever sell the property firm and promise vacant possession. Ever. If you are going to promise vacant possession to the buyer, you need to have a clause in the agreement of purchase and sale. Something that states that if the tenant does not move out, you have the right to extend the closing date, or the deal becomes null and void. However, you don't want to lose a deal, so I recommend going with the extension of the closing date. Now, that extension will allow you enough time to get to the landlord and tenant board hearing so that you can have the tenant evicted successfully. Because in Ontario, when you're selling a house, the tenant has the right to a landlord and tenant board hearing. And I've seen this time and time again, where people will sell a house firm, they'll go all the way to the closing date, the tenant doesn't leave. Now the buyer seeks legal ramification. He wants to sue you, or he wants money off the purchase price. It just gets nasty, and I've seen this happen way too many times. So make sure you do not sell the property firm. The only way you ever sell the property firm with a tenant in it is if the buyer is assuming the tenancy, and you do not have to worry about vacant possession. Otherwise, please listen to me. Do not do it. Which leads me to my next point. Number 4, do not issue the notices by yourself. This is another thing that I've seen happen so many times. If you're doing an N12, which is a notice to end the tenancy based on the buyer's personal use, you have to give this notice to the tenant 60 days in advance from the time that the tenant pays rent. Now, they still have the right to the landlord and tenant board hearing with this notice, which is why, going back, we do not ever sell it firm. Now, I've also seen this happen a ton of times. Landlords say, oh, it's just a landlord and tenant board form. How hard could it be? I'm gonna fill it out myself and give it to the tenant. And then they fill it out wrong, they issue it wrong, and then that form becomes defective, and they don't even know that. They go all the way to the landlord and tenant board hearing, only for the adjudicator to say, hey, Mr. Landlord, I'm sorry, but you issued this notice wrong. Please start again. Now you just wasted all of those months waiting for the hearing to find out it's defective. The tenant stays. You were in the complete wrong. You lose a sale, and now you have to extend it and do it all over again, hoping that there's no legal issues and no problems for you. Now, the worst one that I've seen happen many times, and I help a lot of people from this channel, and it always pains me, is when they issue the N4 notice by themselves and it's defective. They do it wrong. This is the worst one you could issue wrong. This is the notice for non-payment of rent. And if you do that wrong, you are costing yourself months and months and months of lost rent based on that notice being defective and having to go to another landlord and tenant board hearing. So please, hire a paralegal. We have a full legal team behind us, so if you want to reach out, we can issue those notices for you. Our paralegals on our team can help you with that. Just please don't issue it yourself. Which also leads me to my next point, number 5. Do not ever hire a real estate agent that has never sold a tenanted property before. You must make sure that you are working with a real estate agent that understands the landlord and tenant board laws. They will help you from start to finish, from communication with the tenant, making sure that you don't do anything illegally, making sure that you have enough time on the closing date on the offer that gives the paralegal enough time to issue the notice so that nothing is defective, and also making sure that the appropriate clauses and conditions are in the agreement of purchase and sale so that you don't get sued and you have a successful sale, and so that the paralegal can use those to his advantage to help evict the tenant if you need to get vacant possession. This is so important. You're passing the ball to the paralegal properly. The sale was done legally, so when they go to the hearing date, nothing looks like it was done illegally, and you get a successful sale. So if you're looking for a real estate agent that can help you out, just shoot me an email, send me a text, or give me a call. I'd be happy to help you guys. Me and my team can help accomplish this goal for you. Sell your property at top dollar, legally, and stress-free. I'll see you guys in the next video.